Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jen, a 26-year-old artist living in Austin, Texas, and I run my own little online art shop here where I sell stickers, prints, memo pads, and other stationery items and accessories that I've designed and made myself. Last month, I launched my newest coloring book, which by the way is available in my shop, and I thought it would be fun to sit down today and color in one of the pages from it while I chat and answer some of your questions. So grab yourself a little snack, get comfortable, get cozy, and let's get started. For today's coloring session, I'll primarily be using my Ohuhu alcohol markers because I found them to be so saturated and juicy. I feel like that's a weird way to describe these markers, but they just feel so smooth and they have a really nice big brush tip that makes coloring in the large sections of this page so satisfying. I'm also putting in this little plastic paper pad that it came with the markers underneath the page that I'm working on. It's to help prevent bleed through, and if you don't have one, you can always just use a sheet of paper. So the first thing that I'd like to take some time and talk to you about are my current thoughts and feelings towards the art challenges and prompts of this month. This year, I'm not sticking to one particular list or challenge, and I'm also not doing an entry a day. I made this decision very early on because I have been working quite a bit lately during these past few months, just creating art for various projects, and I knew that if I committed to 31 days of drawing, that I would struggle immensely and possibly hit an art block or begin to feel burnt out. So I knew that for the sake of my well-being that I would just take a more relaxed approach, and it's quite evident already because we're a week into October and so far I've only created one art piece for the first day of Peachtober. I've tried making some art for a couple of the other prompts this week, but I just kept finding myself getting stuck. I realized that I have had a tendency to put a lot of pressure and stress on myself to create my best art during these challenges. And I think it's because I know that so many people could potentially see my art, and I want it to be memorable and something that many people would like. So I realized that I need to take a step back, and I've actually taken some time to journal about it the other day, and I decided that I need to restructure my thought process for how I want to approach things going forward. I think that I just need to remember that this is supposed to be fun and exciting, and that this is genuinely something that I want to participate in. This isn't just a task that I'm trying to check off my list of things to do. So I'm going to pick out a few prompts that I like and sketch out some ideas for them. And when I'm sitting with my iPad rendering out all my illustrations, I'm going to try to not think about how others will like it, and instead just try to let go of that and fully embrace the moment and appreciate the time that I get to make art. Because at the end of the day, that's what I truly love to do. I love creating art and I love sharing with it. So I want to make sure that I'm keeping a positive attitude towards it. So with that said, now I want to get into the questions that I asked you to send me. Let's start off with some of the business-related questions. Here's the first question. Is Fructus Illustration your full-time job? Yes, I have been working as a full-time artist and small business owner for a couple of years. My 2-year anniversary starting this journey was actually at the beginning of this month when I was first sharing art on Instagram. I actually have a bachelor's degree in systems engineering, and I worked as an engineer for a couple of years before making the transition to an art career. My old job was just not for me, and I could not imagine myself continuing it for the rest of my life. So I feel very grateful that I have the opportunity and the privilege to even pursue a change of paths and do things that I actually are within my interests and passions. And I feel so lucky that I also receive incredible support and encouragement to keep going. At what stage would someone consider selling products? How did you first start selling your art? How long did it take for you to start getting sales, and how did you promote your products? I actually have a full in-depth video on how I got started and prepared to sell my art online, so I'll link it down below if you want a more detailed explanation. It actually was my first video that I ever made, but to quickly recap here, I think that if you want to start selling art, then the best time or stage to begin doing that would be once you figure out what you're going to sell. Like, what are the products you want to make and what are the products you want to create to sell? Then you can think about how are you going to obtain your products? Are you going to outsource? Are you going to manufacture them yourself? Then you can start thinking about where you're going to sell it. I decided to sell my products on my own website that I made with Squarespace. Then you can think about how are you going to ship or send your products. For me, I decided that I was just going to ship them myself, so I needed to get a PO box and get some packaging materials. Once I got this more or less figured out and I launched my shop, I got a handful of sales in the first week from my mutual supporters, family members, and a few friends. But in my shop's first year, I got a total of 13 orders. This year, however, we are midway through my second year of business, and I've already fulfilled over 300 orders, which to me is huge growth. And for me, what prompted this massive uptick was YouTube. I started to get a lot of engagement here, which led to more people checking out my shop and more people supporting my shop by making their own purchases. So for me, promoting my art online was how I made a majority of my sales. Would you do anything differently if you had to restart your business? If I had the chance to go back and do it all over again, I think that the only thing that I would do differently is to start sooner. I did quite a lot of research and planning prior to launching my shop and starting my business, so I think that I would probably make the same decisions that I did, but I do wish that I had the confidence to start sooner. If you had to give one piece of advice to someone wanting to start a small business, what would it be? Okay, so my advice for someone just starting out would be that growth looks very different from person to person and that you should avoid comparing yourself to anyone else. It's a slippery slope, it's not productive, and it just never helps. You have to keep looking ahead and believe in yourself to keep showing up and just do your best. How do you grow on social media? Also, what keeps you motivated to keep posting? I still feel like I'm figuring this out, but I think growth comes from being consistent and showing up. I don't just mean following a consistent posting schedule, but I think being consistent in what you post and the quality of your content really helps you grow. What I found to be the best type of content is content that revolves around what you're doing, what you're making, and who you are. People are really interested in learning and getting a behind-the-scene look in your process and who you are as an individual, because the more that they can relate to you, the more that they will like you and want to support you and would like to see you to succeed. For me, I found that my motivation to keep posting comes from a huge desire to be successful. I haven't reached my long-term goals yet, so I know that if I want to get there one day, that I have to keep showing up and keep creating content. I've also tried to find ways to make this part of my job more fun, and I look for tools that make the process go by faster. For example, one little way that I make my editing process go by quicker and more easily is by using a wireless mouse. I know it's a small little thing, but with a mouse, I can quickly scroll and make changes with just one hand compared to using a trackpad. And these little changes can make a huge impact, so I encourage you to look in your process, in your system, what can you make a little bit easier and make the process go by a little bit quicker so it's not as stressful and daunting to get done. How do you balance your time with making art for your business and practicing and improving your art skills? This has actually been a goal and habit that I'm actively trying to implement and have been trying for the past 2 years. But what has helped me achieve a better balance for my time is to plan it out. I am a list person and I'm always making a list of things to do. And as an artist, one thing that I want to do is practice my skill and make improvements where I think are needed. So what I do is plan my time and include time within my days or my weeks to practice my craft and learn new skills. How long would you say one should take to practice improving their art before trying to sell stuff online? I don't think that there's a specific time frame. Like, it's different for everyone, and so in 1 year, you might be able to make more progress than someone else because you have more time to dedicate to practicing, right? So instead, I would say your focus should be on simply developing your skills. Personally, I waited about 6 months before I launched my shop and started selling my products, but it's ultimately up to you for when you feel confident. But a good indicator that it might be time to start thinking about selling your art would be when people start showing interest in your work. Now let's get into some art/personal and miscellaneous questions. The first one is, what are some of your other coloring book ideas? Well, I have quite a few ideas jumping around my head, and I want to create so many. Initially, I wanted to create a set of seasonal coloring books. I've already done the one for fall, but I was thinking of making one for each of the other 3 seasons. But I would prefer to have coloring books that are not tied to a specific season so that they can be used any time of the year. So I haven't quite worked out what is next, but please let me know what you would like to see, and I would love to bring those ideas to life. What's your favorite thing to draw? I think my favorite things to draw are fruits like apples, bananas, oranges, lemons. Are lemons fruits? I don't know, but I do like to draw lemons. I also love drawing animals, and right now my go-tos are bears, cows, and frogs. And I also like to draw food, flowers, and plants. I do want to get into learning or figuring out what humans look like in my style, but that's something that I'm doing in my sketchbook. And once I feel more confidence in sharing that, I will definitely show you what they look like. Why did you start drawing? Well, I've always loved drawing and being creative since I was very young. And as a kid, I would spend so much time drawing in my sketchbooks because I wanted to get better at it. Art has just always been something that I've been very drawn to and interested in. So now as an adult, and now that I'm pursuing a career in art, it's just something that I find myself being so happy to do. And it just kind of all stems from my childhood. Where do you get your inspiration from? Well, I get inspiration from various places, I think like many of us can agree. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly from where, but I would say that I am heavily inspired by my childhood and the movies and TV shows that I watched. I think that the art that I create now is art that my younger self would have loved. What's your favorite art supply or one of your favorites, since I know it can be hard to choose, and why? Well, I mainly do digital art, so I love using Procreate on my iPad, but I figure you probably want to know what is my favorite traditional art supply. So at the moment, my answer would be that my favorite are these alcohol markers that I'm using right now. I've always wanted my own set of these types of markers, but they are quite pricey, so I never asked for them when I was young. However, now that I'm an adult, I can buy myself these types of things. And aside from loving them for the pure nostalgia, I really just like how they leave such a flat and consistent color, and I do like that it has 2 types of tips on them. Which is better, Cricut or Silhouette? This is a good question, and one that I have asked myself when I was figuring out which machine to get for myself, but I can't say for sure which is better because I've only ever used and owned a Cricut. But from what I gather from others that have used both, the Silhouette seems to perform better. I've been using my Cricut for about 1.5 years now, and a majority of the time it works great. I'm able to create and make all of my stickers, magnetic bookmarks, and various other paper products here at home. However, when it doesn't work, it's very frustrating, and figuring out what's wrong can be rather time-consuming. I've also heard a lot of people having I've also heard that the Cricut support team isn't the most helpful, but I haven't really heard or know what the experience is with the Silhouette, so I can't say for sure, but I know there's many people out there who have tried both that can answer this question much better than I do. What drawing app can you use if you don't have Procreate? I personally only ever used Procreate on my iPad, but I understand that not everyone has an iPad or wants to use Procreate, so some alternatives that I found online are Adobe Fresco, Adobe Illustrator, and Clip Studio Paint. You can find a huge variety of alternatives if you just type in Procreate alternatives in Google. And like I've mentioned, I haven't used any of these myself, but there's a lot of promising options out there. What is your hair care routine? This is a question I never thought that would be asked, and I never thought anyone would be interested to know, but I'm happy to answer this question. I have had a long hair journey, and I feel like I'm finally in a place where I know kind of more or less what I need to do to care for my hair. So my routine starts with a hair wash about once or twice a week. I have thick hair and my hair doesn't really get too greasy or dirty, so I try not to wash it more than I need to. In the shower, I will use a clarifying shampoo first, then shampoo with just a normal shampoo. Next, I'll apply a conditioner and finger comb my hair until it's detangled. I'll then rinse it out and finish off with a deep conditioner. And I'll usually leave that deep conditioner on for 5-ish minutes. After the shower, I'll put my hair up in a microfiber towel to dry, and after a couple of hours, I will then take my hair out of the hair towel and apply some rosemary and jojoba oil to the midsection and ends of my hair. I'll also apply a leave-in conditioner and a heat protectant and then comb it out to make sure it's spread evenly. And then I'll begin to blow dry my hair straight and get it to be completely dried. Then usually on the next day or so, I'll curl my hair with my hair straightener and reapply oils to the ends of my hair if they're looking kind of dry. And I hope this satisfies your curiosity. Are you a reader? And if so, what genre of books do you like to read and what would you recommend? I am not an active reader at the moment, which is something that I'd actually like to change. I used to read more books when I was younger and I really enjoyed it, so I really want to get back into it. I'm not sure what my favorite genre of books are at the moment, but before, when I used to read more often, I definitely enjoyed mystery and fantasy books. So I think that I'd like to start from there and see what new books I could read and enjoy. But let me know if you read any good books lately that you would recommend. Doesn't matter the genre, I'm just curious to hear about any good recommendations. What made you want to design a coloring book? The idea, or desire rather, to make my own coloring books came a couple of years ago when I was still working at my old engineering job. I came across some videos on YouTube where people were making and selling coloring books on Amazon, and I became really interested in the idea of creating my own, and so I started to do that. I made 3 coloring books during that year and I loved doing it. I didn't sell too many copies and I stopped sharing them because I felt like my art skills and styles had really developed since I made them and I wanted to create new ones. So now, about a year since my last coloring book that I've made, I decided that I wanted to give it another go and made this coloring book that I'm actually coloring right now. What is your favorite page from your coloring book? Oh gosh, it's so hard to pick because I truly love all the pages that I made, but if I really had to choose and narrow it down, it would either be this page that I'm working on right now, which is called Knitting Together, or the Campfire Stories page. What do you do to recharge your creative battery? How do you get back into the flow of creating when it feels like the well has run dry? For me, when I'm feeling like I need to take a break, I like to start with journaling about my feelings and thoughts. Journaling has just been always my safe space and something that I go to very often when I need to just take a break, get through some things, and find some resolution to keep going. Other things that I think are helpful is to get a change of scenery. This could be going somewhere new to eat or taking a slightly different path on your walk. Just experiencing new things can be really helpful. I also like to watch animated movies or TV shows. For me, what I found in general is that taking time away and taking my mind off art kind of just helps me get back into the flow. So that is all the time I have to answer your questions. I try to answer as many as possible. And I really like the way that this page looks. And if you want to color in your own pages and pick out your own colors, you can always check out my shop to purchase your own coloring book. Thank you so much for sending me your questions, and thank you so much for joining me today and keeping me company. I hope that you may have found this video fun, informative, and interesting. And if you did, please consider leaving me a like. I hope that you have a super great week ahead of you, and thank you so much for watching and for making it to the end of the video. It really means so much to me, and I really appreciate you all.